Okay, this is scenic Lake George in upstate New York before I go to Fort Ticonderoga. This is the lake below it. Pretty cool. There's a road that goes all along the edge. There's a canal and more canal. There's the buildings on top of the fort.
It was unbelievably loud.
Oh yeah, cannons are way louder than you would think that they are.
Yeah, and he said that was 1/4.
Yeah, even at a fourth of the charge. Yeah, even at a fourth, you're like, you know, it's very loud.
Just about crap myself. I mean,
Oh yeah.
He's saying, okay, be prepared, be prepared.
This is mind you, this is only a quarter.
Yeah.
And you know, they're not even right next to you.
Yeah.
And they're loud.
Did you
cover your ears? Oh no.
We should have, definitely. I mean, I should have done it when I heard the cannons.
Definitely.
Definitely. Hear what I'm saying? This is a French cannon.
So, did they have something more permanent than wood? What did they used to have
I
here
think
to keep them from flying?
if they didn't have the screw adjustments, then they had a series of wedges that they put in.
Because it doesn't look like
the
this would keep it in place.
That's
No,
just the
they
pintle
also-
mount
I
to
think
get
they
up and
also
down.
had ropes on.
Something going
Oh,
on.
to pull it back?
Yeah.
Or to keep
Because
it.
I don't think any of these are original. Because remember they were all taken to.
Oh, they took them.
New York.
What was that guy's name? Knox?
Or to, no, to Boston.
Knox took them to Boston, I think.
To relieve the British siege of Boston.
Yeah, Boston Harbor.
So, these are really heavy.
Apparently.
They just had these two handles.
Yeah, they had one guy on each side.
The ancient aliens must have helped.
Yes, that must have been the aliens. It was aliens.
Their diet was better back.
Google Maps of where we've been. I realized I was in the Starport. Very large one too. You just don't appreciate it when you're in it. Mortars.
If it's a small mortar, is it a Lester? More or less. It's a Dewa. It's not a...
Where's Dennis when you need him?
Yeah, I know. Dennis always wins these battles.
So Dennis,
We just crossed the line.
Dennis is the guy you signed that scenario for.
Oh, okay.
And
Ticonderoga. Tyrone Conderoga. Another big mortar. Wow, they didn't plug it. It's got all kinds of stuff in there. Earthworks. Basket Earthworks. This is better than nothing.
on top. Still, I'll bet you this.
That looks kind of old, so it
Yeah.
could be original. But
doubt it's original, but
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, there's a belt on it.
Good replication.
There's a belt holding the
Yeah, there's a piece of
cover over the touch hole.
Piece of lead.
Who on the 10th of May 1775 captured this important fortress and secured for the Americans a valuable base of operations on Lake George and Champlain, erected by the Sons of the Revolution in the state of New York.
Nyack.
Yep.
I'll go through here while there's nobody in here. There's a uniform I just saw.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
How are you today?
Fair to Midland.
Yeah.
This must be the barracks. Or no, this is the carpentry and barracks. There's racks everywhere. It's like a submarine. There he is.
Yes.
So what are you doing here?
I am getting ready to clean our muskets.
Were you firing earlier?
We were. We unfortunately only do one musket demonstration a day.
Oh.
But if you
So we heard it.
You heard it, yeah. But if you stick around for 2 o'clock,
Oh, okay.
we're firing up our cannon.
I'll probably come back tomorrow
Okay, yeah.
since we got 2 days.
Right. Right now I'm just stripping our locks off of our guns here with a turn screw.
Can I come in there?
You are more than welcome.
Awesome. So what are these muskets called that you're working on?
So these two longer ones are 1756 British patterned long land muskets. The shorter one in the center is a 1756 Royal Artillery carbine. So I'm just taking out the lock nails there, going that side plate. And
They're all original?
no, we are not playing with originals. These are all reproductions of those guns that I mentioned.
They look aged.
Well, they are. Most of these pieces here are somewhere in the ballpark of 15 to 30 years old. We've done a lot of refurbishing work on them.
And they get a lot of, what would you call it, work?
Yeah, where?
Where they get a lot of use.
Absolutely. I mean, we fire them every day in our open season. So they are certainly well-used pieces. But what I'm doing now is sort of the maintenance side of it, you know. Each time you
PMCS.
fire, yeah. Each time you fire, you have to clean out all that really corrosive.
Is that called fouling? What?
Yes.
What is it called? Yeah. Okay.
Fouling? Fouling, which is the period term for how it gets coated and all of that powder
The residue. Yeah.
that causes extreme corrosion. If you don't take care of
And
it.
you got your multi-tool here.
Yeah, that's a turn
Oops, I
screw.
gotta point it here.
Yeah.
Turn screw.
Yep. So it has 2 screws and this pick. That's for clearing touch holes.
Oh,
on the
okay. That's
field.
what I figured. Yeah.
So I either keep it up in my pocket, and I actually at one point, as you can see, had a hemp cord.
Like a lanyard. Yeah.
Yep, and it was tied to one of my buttons, so that it could just simply pull it off and work on the lock right then and there. It also works as a great napping tool to resharpen the flints. And this one's flint was shot today, so it's been taken out and I have to replace it. Yeah. Where are you drawing this from?
Well, I just go around the country. This says dashing across America.
Yeah,
So I just go and I DoorDash for a living and
Oh,
Uber
cool.
Eats and then go to the next place.
that's awesome.
So
Wow.
I'm running out of states to the north, so I'll probably hit Maine and then.
Head to the south.
Yeah, well, I'm coming from the south,
Oh, you
so
are?
west
Yeah.
after Maine,
All right.
Vermont.
You've been to many other forts like this?
I went to Williamsburg, which is
Yeah.
close. Sumter, Vicksburg, Pulaski, all that kind of stuff.
Really cool.
at Williamsburg you could fire the muskets for $95, I think.
Yeah. You got to do that?
No, I don't make enough. 95. I would have liked to.
Yeah. Oh, it's cool to.
That's a lot of DoorDash deliveries.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a pretty neat gig just to
Oh, yeah.
get around and see places.
Yeah.
So I've never heard someone that used it that way, you know?
Yeah, I last couple days I made money door dashing in Queensbury near here.
Yep.
And then today and tomorrow I'll be doing whatever I want.
Sweet.
But I could always DoorDash tomorrow if I wanted. It's freedom.
Car barrack space right over there. Farthest right doors on either floor. Top floor we have a tailoring workspace set
Oh
up.
yeah, cool.
We make all of our own clothing here. And right down below there, the shoemaker, where
Awesome.
he is working on a shoe repair.
Sounds like a plan. Hello. So are you the cobbler, the shoemaker?
Yes, I do both here. I make the shoes and repair them.
Cool.
It's something that you would have seen done by soldiers here, repairing shoes, not so much making them. The shoes for British soldiers are made in England and then issued to British soldiers. But we do both here, make them and repair them because, well, we need them from a practical standpoint.
Yeah.
And so today, I'm repairing a shoe. Now, this shoe has got a new sole and a new heel. And I had to cut.
Oh wow, yeah.
I had to cut the back seam of it to get cut off the last, unfortunately. So I'll have to fix that real quick. But once this is done, then I will start on the next shoe, which has been broken down, and it's going to be fixed with a new half sole and 2 new layers of heel as well. And that's a pretty typical repair that you would see.
So you just took out the seam on the back there, right?
Yeah, I just had to cut the seam. The leather that I made these out of is really, really thick, thicker than I normally do for this person because they're really hard on their feet. So it didn't exactly stretch the way I wanted it to, so, but that's okay.
Improvise, adapt, overcome.
There you go. So now I just got to pull the stitches and zip it up again, which is no big deal. That'll go quick. And then on to the next one.
So you use like a thread or leather or what?
Linen.
Linen?
Linen thread.
Okay. Is there flax local to here
Nope.
or?
No, it would all be made in England and sent to wherever British soldiers were. So it's not really, you know, this isn't a place of manufacture. There's no infrastructure for manufacture, but in England there is, and the British Army is going to be acquiring items, or rather regimental agents will go out and acquire the contracts for things to be made for the British regiments that they're, you know, responsible for. And, you know, the colonel pays for a lot of things, and then the soldiers are issued these items.
And that includes pretty much everything. Is there anything that's local? Like, would they meat and cows and stuff is local?
I mean, they're growing their own food, vegetables here. They actually had a garden. But,
Oh, okay.
you know, and there was actually quite a large sutlery here. The selling of, you know, things the army didn't exactly provide. And it was actually at Crown Point originally, but, you know, they moved it with the fire at Crown Point to our north and the, you know, large level of degradation to that fort, deterioration of that fort, it was moved down here to Fort Ticonderoga, and it was put out on the Glossy, which is out in front of the fort where you see those by the log house where those sticks are standing up straight.
Yeah. Over here.
Yeah, she's cooking dinner.
Would you make bread in the pans over here? Oh, there's a pan in there. Yeah. Looks like a roast.
It's just boiling beef.
Is there a difference? I don't cook, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Typically boiling, or what would the meat would typically be boiled? Yeah.
It's just boiling. Sometimes we use the coils, but boiling comes out a little faster. But yeah, we usually typically just boil it.
This is the top. area is fenced off for some reason. Know why? Stay off. These are the stay off walls because it stays them off, I guess. Another stay off wall. This looks like it's probably a moat. It's an emoji. That's where they emote. In the emote. And more cannons and motos. I think all these cannons were taken away. The West Demi-Lune. I guess this is a Demi-Lune. It's like a little separate castle off to one of the points. I don't know if this is a 4 or 5 pointed fort, but the walls look very, what's the word, dilapidated? The lune is dilapidated, falling apart. Fort Lookout up there, I guess. I don't know. I would assume. It's going back out to the parade grounds. There you are. Well, that's disturbing.
Yeah, this is all medical stuff in here.
You must, yeah. There's Ben McDonald.
No, we missed it.
Mr. Cannon.
Small.
Well, they said they're firing the muskets tomorrow.
Oh, what are they firing?
They've already fired the muskets for today.
So that was a cannon?
Didn't sound like a cannon, but this is the upper floor.
Yeah, they have a thing that's over there that says closed for.
Yeah, work in progress.
There it is. Okay, restoration.
I want a refund. Hazards. Private. That's where the pirates go, right? Pirate? That was a joke from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. There was a door that said private, and he thought it, because he couldn't read, he thought it said pirate. Pikes. It's a half pike. It's a baby pike. It's a baby cannon. Powder horns. Ooh, those are some nice horns. It's the heating unit. Cooking. This is the microwave. Yes. Dutch pistols. Cavalry, which is not to be confused with Calvary, because Calvary is a hill.
10 seconds
10 seconds in here.
Artifacts. Shards. Bunch of coats. These use only the wooden cannonballs provided. I had a game that had this on it one time. A cannon, you'd pull the cannon back. Show you the original water bottles for the fort. Pickaxes. Greek, Terra, boys, all French. Pierre means stone. Glacis. There's Chris. Mr. Gammon. Wave to the camera, yes. I have refound you. You've been found again. Okay.
You go over to that across the bridge.
Yep. The loon, the demi-loon. Ovens. Exhibits inside. Haha. I have arrived in the dungeon with a big cannon, 8-pounder cannon, in the Underdark hole. Great Britain. Paintings everywhere. This is Colonel Robert Knox. He's the guy that took the cannons, and I guess it was down to Boston or New York, somewhere, to relieve one of the cities. Forgot what city. People were, it seems like a lot smaller back then. It seems like such a small outfit, you know? Guess this is an armor-piercing round. 32-pound bar shot. Huh. This is a very accurate map, yes. They didn't have satellites back then, so they had to guesstimate. That's a long, it must be a full pike. It's a halberd, actually. There you are. Who said you were AWOL? Yep. Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, 2. I saw that also. This is a mortar French product. And then this was taken out of the guns taken to Boston
By Knox?
and then brought back.
Oh, they brought it back? Oh.
Yeah. This whole back
Thir-
north
13-inch
to
mortar.
support the faltering invasion of Canada. We went to Quebec, and it's with the stopped at Ticonderoga. The mortar was being proofed and it burst.
Well, that's why they proof them.
Yeah. And amazingly, no one was injured.
Wow.
If you guys want, you can check out some of the coats that are hanging up over there. If you want to try one on, get an idea of what it'd be like to wear a British soldier's uniform.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Thank you.
How long did it take to get this far?
We started it on Monday.
Oh, wow.
Monday, I did all the patterning. I did some of the preliminary seams, some of the basting, and now we are,
I'm putting in the buttonhole
Almost.
stitches on the collar.
yeah, almost done.
That's all wool?
Yeah, the pockets and the interfacing are linen, but everything else is wool.
So that's the white's linen.
Nope,
No,
that's
this is still wool.
Oh, that is.
This
the
is. Yeah,
the
you can feel
gray
free to feel it if you
is
want.
linen. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can see this. It's a lot lighter weight, and then there's interfacing too within here, hidden away. But the white, yeah, it's still wool.
This is linen over here.
Yeah, this is linen. So they
Breeches, breeches.
get breeches. Yeah,
breeches.
you do see breeches in the period too. Kind of both. Yeah, with the woolen ones like what he's wearing, being their main part of their uniform, like the breeches, they do receive linen breeches like these for the summertime, ideally. The idea being that it's lighter weight, keep you cooler in the summer. It
Yeah,
won't last
I
as
want a
long.
linen shirt now because I went to Williamsburg and they told me all about it.
Oh yeah. Did you talk to the farmer?
The guy, the weaver,
Oh, weaver, cool.
and the milliner.
Milliner?
I don't know how to say it. Milliner.
Milliner.
Yeah, and everybody had linen stuff. Now I want a linen shirt.
Yes.
I don't want this cotton stuff.
Definitely, yeah. Try a linen shirt in the summer. It's
Well,
great.
where do I get one?
The internet.
The internet,
I'll be here
yeah.
tomorrow if you want to make me one because
Yeah,
you can just
that
make it
will
in a
take-
day, right?
Oh man, not a shirt. Shirt has how many stitches did you say?
The shirt I can do in about 40 hours.
That's pretty
So I'll be
good.
back in 40 hours
Good.
for my shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, you can definitely find them online. Just gotta do a Google search.
Probably cost a bunch.
They are a little more pricey. 'Cause,
One arm, one leg.
well, linen is not harvested as much as cotton is nowadays. Once we started growing cotton in the United States, we kind of marketed it as
Harder to
being-
get the flax.
Just that we marketed cotton so much that we
Yeah.
made people think they wanted it more.
Yeah.
And then
Comfortable, cool cotton.
yeah, and so now
Sweaty
linen just
cotton.
isn't as common. People don't like the fact that more inexpensive cotton linen wrinkles easily.
Yeah.
And just most of the time, the way it's harvested and grown is more so for like the seeds, so these flax seeds and baking and stuff,
Yeah.
right? If you grow it really, really, really tall,
The
so
flax?
that yeah,
Yeah.
because it'll be a reed, so you'll get that nice long fiber, which is better
Oh,
for
yeah.
weaving. But if we're growing it for the seeds, it's going to be grown a little differently, so not as nice of a
And then they make the
product.
flaxseed oil with the flax seeds.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
I used to thread the needle for my mom.
Oh yeah.
Now I need somebody to thread it for me, probably.
Aw. Yeah, with this stuff too, it's pretty coarse thread.
Is that flax thread?
It is, yeah. Yep, and then we coat it with some beeswax. So it's pretty slubby. It's just kind of fibrous, right? So all the fibers will, catch with each pass through the fabric, and then we coat it.
You said beeswax. I immediately thought none of your beeswax.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the lady at the Williamsburg was telling me about the thimble. She has a silver thimble.
Yeah, everyone at the milliner shop gets a silver thimble with their apprenticeship. I
Yeah.
think even their internship they get one.
And she was saying how it's not to protect your finger, it's to push the needle in.
Yeah, it protects your wrist a lot.
I think I must have used it backwards when I've used one and put it on the finger with the pointed end.
Oh. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, so like your...
Yeah, but I would put it on the other hand
Oh yeah, yeah. This one I will constantly.
Let me
stab
see your
his finger.
calluses. Yeah. See.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
'Cause you
You
need-
are worker bee.
Yeah, so you need to be able to feel
Yeah.
the
The
needle
tactile
go through.
sensation. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how you know, like, oh, it's passed through. Now I can.
Anytime I've ever sewn, I could never get the stitches to be the same.
I mean, yeah, it's just repetition.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this we do is a spaced back stitch right here. I'm just filling in a spot that didn't catch. So a little spaced back stitch, so it's a tiny space. Exactly.
Oh.
I'm using my finger back here to feel that it's gone through.
Okay.
And then
Is that a back stitch you're talking
this
about?
one's a spaced back stitch.
Oh.
So a back stitch is what we use for seams. So to stitch the sleeves on here, see how it's closed stitch?
Mm-hmm.
Because this one is spaced out, and ideally you just see the little tiny pricks there.
Space meaning you skip.
Exactly, you leave a big space
Yeah.
between it.
And then whip stitch is when you go through the same side each time?
Yep, or over casting.
Oh,
kind of.
over, yeah,
So
over
just
the
going over.
edge.
Yeah, exactly.
It was cool seeing the fabric being made. He did
Yeah.
linen, I think, which he said was kind of rare. And we got to see him cut it off. It was right at the end of
Oh,
the
fun.
bolt. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next day he started cotton.
Oh wow, cool.
So I came back the next day
Nice.
and he was showing him how he started the bolt.
Cool, yeah, that's really neat. Yeah, did you go to the wig maker down there?
No, it was closed.
Yeah, because
I looked in the window.
She made a wig out of flax as well.
Oh, that would have been. Some of the places were closed. It's very.
Yeah, they keep
And I went there for a day and a half, so.
Yeah, they have 2 days where they're closed, so they can do research and.
Is that beeswax there?
yeah.
And you coat it with the beeswax.
Exactly.
That's not my beeswax. That's none of my beeswax. I need to get one of those hats so I could look more like a pirate. I was getting mad at people yesterday. I was like, look at these people that are wearing these patches and they don't need to wear a patch. I need to wear my patch.
Oh.
And they're just wearing it for fashion. Look at this Madonna, she's wearing this patch.
Interesting.
And I was just like indignant for like 5 minutes.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I was like, these people, they're mocking me.
No.
They don't need a patch. Fashion statement. So these weird things in the window, what are these
Yes.
from?
So that is from the glass being made. So have you ever seen glass being blown?
Yeah.
So making window panes is similar. You're blowing the glass.
Oh, that's the end one.
Yeah, sort of. So
Yeah. The tube.
tube is called a pontle. So you're blowing glass, you spin it rapidly, so
Yeah.
centrifugal force makes a big flat disc, and then you cut the window panes from that disc.
So they don't want to waste it, so they just use that one.
So that's the funny part. Normally, the center of it, where that mark is chucked back into the melting pot.
Oh.
You do see it on occasion in really inexpensive windows in Europe. Here, though, the original glass for the fort was made in France. The idea of shipping all the glass here, if you're stacking it up, shipping it across the Atlantic, and it's got that irregularity in it too, it's not gonna really make it here, cause the rest of the stack to break.
Oh.
And yeah, it normally is just chucked back into the melting pot.
So what would it be called again?
A pontle mark,
Pontle.
because the blow tube is called a pontle. Yeah.
There was an earthquake in '91 in California, and I stayed in a glass shop
Oh.
after, and I was thinking, all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, there could be an aftershock, and I'm surrounded by glass.
Oh my goodness.
And I said, I don't want to be in here. There was raining outside,
Yeah.
like big time. So we came in there to sleep.
They have swapped. In '75, when we see the capturing of the fort, they initially went to the other floor and then had to go the opposite to find them. But yeah, today we use this room for our tailoring. So all of the clothing you see us wearing here is made right up here. Yeah. And I am just finishing up this coat. All I have left are buttonholes on the collar here. The collar actually gets buttoned right down over top of the lapels into that same top button.
So you made everything you're wearing, or did
I
other
did,
people?
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that silver on the necklace? Is that made
Yeah.
here too?
This wasn't made here. This was a custom commission. It is based on a pendant in our collection, though, that belonged to Harriet Ackland. She was a few years later, but she was married to an officer in the 20th Regiment of Foot. Famously, he was injured down at Saratoga. She didn't come with him, but she went to America to go get him, to nurse him back to health and bring him home. And we have her pendant in our collection. So it looks
Cool.
just like this, but gold.
And your thimble is silver?
Oh, this is brass.
Brass? Okay.
Yeah.
Keep it so that you can then sew it later. But you don't leave these on, you pull them out.
Yeah. And so you're going to reuse the fabric, or is this repairing that section?
Nope. We're almost done with this pair of gaiters. They're gonna look like this when they're done.
Hey, let's go.
A little more stitching that needs to happen, but by and large.
Are they coated with something like tar?
Yeah, they're starched, and then there's a linseed oil that goes over the top.
Oh, okay. And those are gaiters right there?
Yes.
That you're working on? Oh, this breeze is really nice, huh?
Yeah, we've got a great spot up here.
Cross
Breeze comes
breeze.
in, and generally it's the place with the most light in this museum, and
Oh.
it's got a good cross breeze.
So she was telling me how the commander or wherever would live up here in the summer, and then in the winter they would go down where it's warm.
Yeah, it seems to be the practice that the officer corps utilizes around this time period. We know that based off of a letter written by Jocelyn Felton, who actually lives in this room, and he mentions this practice happening.
Thank you.
And all your shoes are made here too, or is that?
Yeah. Yep. Shoemaker right downstairs.
Yeah, I was down there earlier. And you got buckles.
There he is.
Yeah, who said it was able?
It was so small, I swear.
Oh, yeah.
The guy must have been like
Yeah,
100 pounds.
that's what I was saying. It was like people, and I think I was saying that when I was recording. It was like, you know, people were very small back then.
But we didn't have any. I didn't have any science reference thing for.
Yeah.
But there was a couple of rifles, not rifles, but muskets downstairs that were about 12 feet long. And so I had some lady stand there.
Oh,
so I could
yeah.
take a picture.
Yeah, it's like this guy was what, 105 pounds?
100 pounds and 5 ounces.
Like you were saying, with the church having to raise the
The pews.
pews 4 inches.
Yep. 4 to 6 inches. So everybody does their own sewing? Is that how that works?
Nope. Just like today, you have a specialist to do most things that you consume. And in this time period, also like today, you would employ a tailor to make men's clothing. Tailoring is the most common trade of the time period. The absence of a sewing machine and the similar demand makes it a very, very common means of being employed. And that means when, you know, if you asked a soldier what he did prior to his employment, a lot of those men who were tradesmen formerly, many of them would have been tailors. And therefore, a regiment has a workforce in the rank and file that can fit all of the clothing or repair it throughout the year, make seasonal clothing for summer or winter, campaign clothing if the regiment is deployed. And in this way, be relatively flexible in its movements from one place to the next, because you could be sent, you know, to East Florida or to Quebec, like the 26th Regiment was in 1773. But then also really sort of drop the price tag on outfitting a soldier by doing it in-house.
So on your hat, is that the 4th Royal Artillery?
Yeah, 4th Battalion of the Royal Artillery, which is one of the regiments posted to North America.
So when the balloon goes up, or whatever you want to call it, then you'll be out there with the artillery?
So those are the Royal Artillery, the ones manning the artillery.
Mm-hmm.
So spotter balloons, they don't happen for another...
No, I mean, not when the balloon goes up, I mean when fighting starts, are you out there with the
yes.
rest of the...
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Yeah, so, as a soldier, your primary responsibility is, combat, should it happen. It just so happens that soldiers don't really spend large portions of their career in combat. It's garrison duty, and consequently you find, a whole host of other jobs are being done in order to maintain that regiment.
So you wouldn't have to be on guard duty, so you would not have to do the fatigues and...
Yeah, you're often excused guard duty, some of the other
Nope, I'm finishing
fatigue
this
duties,
time.
like you're saying.
Okay,
Yep, so I'm also,
You made the whole thing?
Because you have a skill.
we did as a team.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we have 3 of us working on this. And,
Are you uncomfortably, were you here yesterday?
yep,
Were you uncomfortably warm?
Yes.
Well, this is the breeze
it
room.
was okay. It was warm.
But they wear linen, so the linen is cooler than cotton. I don't know how your shirt is. You said your shirt is supposed to be good for cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what fibers it is,
Also
but
full of holes.
yeah.
Yeah, the big
It's
thing
holy.
with these garments is that they are relatively breathable. The wool, 100% wool, will allow the core temperature to sort of change as it gets warmer and cooler. An example of a garment that does not breathe is a raincoat. And if you're, standing in a rainstorm and it's still hot out, often you are wetter on the inside because you're sweating.
Yeah.
So that's not really what we're experiencing.
That's what I experienced in Florida. So
You'd have
had
a
Tom
Gore-Tex,
Shield
yeah.
says- but the rain would come down at an angle, or
It would go-
down straight.
blows
the
on it,
sun,
yeah.
The sun comes in at an
Yeah.
angle, so you're getting the worst of everything.
Yeah, so really these garments sort of protect you from the rays of the sun, and consequently you're not as hot as direct sunlight. You're perceiving to be warmer because you're sweating a lot, but really that's sort of, the modern association. Sweating means you're hot, but really sweating a lot means that your body is maintaining its own temperature.
So the sun comes.
Nature's air conditioning.
Yeah.
No matter which way it is, yeah.
Let's go down and
Okay.
try and find Bob.
What was he saying?
He was talking about the length of the beds to.
Oh, they're short,
to-
yeah.
Yeah, they're short to gauge how tall people were or weren't. And Bob's
They
legs
just
were
slept up.
probably-
Oh, yeah.
Right, his legs was out there.
Yeah. They just slept on their side, I guess.
I guess. Yeah, our friend's 6'3".
I could imagine that would be fun.
And there's probably 2 people per bunk.
Depending on what garrison is here, it'd be between 3 to 4 men at max.
Oh, like 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom?
3 to 4 on the bottom, 3 to 4 on the top. Yeah.
Really, at the same time?
Yeah.
It wasn't shift work kind of thing.
No, they would all sleep in the same
Hot seat, whatever. No. Wow, they got to be pretty friendly.
Yeah. I wouldn't be that friendly.
That's not. I don't see how you could fit 4 people.
Well,
And
No,
then-
this wasn't the way it was in 1774.
Oh.
But it would have been while the French were here, them having a lot larger garrison than what is present here in 1774.
So Bob.
Well, people were smaller then too. Remember?
When Bob
They
stayed
could probably
in,
also sleep like head to toe.
Oh.
Well,
there was a footer on the bed,
Oh.
and he couldn't. He had to crunch up and
Yeah.
lay sideways.
That's another small bed. This the married people's quarters
At an angle for some reason.
and an angle. Maybe it's for birthing. Maybe it's. Yeah, it's, I don't know. It's angled. General Henry Knox. Opportunity knocks once, but Henry knocks twice. Is it French? Oh, General Marquis de Joseph Macron de Saint-Verdun. Okay, this is the exit that we came in the other way as the entrance. Big doors. Look, new doors. Look like new doors. Probably the same hinges, but new. Okay, this is going back towards the beginning. Not sure how much of this is original. How much is repair work? Cement. Looks kind of pretty new. This is the moat. Is the moat called a motte, Chris? Is that a motte? M-O-T? That's a motte.
At the same time, the British are building up a fleet of ships from north to Quebec, some of them across the Atlantic. Without these canals, though, they are taking these vessels apart, carting them south of the rapids, putting them back together. So, another big feat. Now, they docked their ships at 3 Mile Point, 3 miles north of here, in October of 1776. But at that point, they see the size of the American garrison here, again, 13,000. They decide to turn around, come back better prepared the next year. Which we saw in the last war worked really well. So come back again in 1777. This time, though, the American garrison is nowhere near 13,000. They're down to closer to around 3,000. But they're going to hold their lines as long as possible. In fact, General Arthur St. Clair, the American commander here, he's ordered to stay. But after several days of holding his lines, he's realizing it's not looking good. He makes the difficult decision to evacuate the fort, going against his orders to save the lives of his men. What they did, they cross over the temporary bridge to Mount Independence. The women and children load up the bateau with all the gear, supplies, hospital. They row south to Skenesborough, and these soldiers, after they go on to fight the Battle of Hubbardton, we see that they're the very same soldiers to go on to be successful down at the battles of Saratoga, which many believe to be a major turning point in the American Revolution. So ultimately, good decision on his part. Does mean though, 77, before it's back in British hands. They really only stay until November of that year though, before they leave. What do you think they do with the place? Yep, blow it up again. So it's now been blown up twice. It did burn down another time. That was an accident. But as you can imagine, it's not in great shape. So the American Revolution comes to a close just a few years later, and we don't really see the fort in use again after that. Right after the American Revolution, though, we get our very first tourist. You may have heard of him. None other than George Washington. He didn't come up here on his own campaign, but after the war, he was on a tour, visiting these sites from the war that he didn't see. So he comes in really as our first tourist. The fort falls into the hands of Columbia and Union colleges. Of course, it's in ruins at that point. Shortly after, a few more years, 1820, a wealthy New York merchant, William Ferris Pell, purchases this land, puts a fence around the property. It is one of America's first acts of historic preservation. And he builds a summer home for he and his family down by the lake's edge. You can visit the grounds of that by our gardens today. The land is then passed down through generation to generation in his family when it gets to Stephen and Sarah Pell, who visit it in 1908. But they truly fall in love with the place and are enamored with the idea of rebuilding this so people could see how it looked, building up this museum. Stephen's collecting up artifacts for this museum, cannons from all over the world. Sarah is organizing the reconstruction. We start with this building here, the officers' quarters. If you look at the lower half, see there's that creamy white mortar. That's where you can see original stone and mortar with the reconstruction built right on top of these ruins. This was completed in 1909. July of 1909, we're open to visitors as a museum for the first time, and we've been lucky enough to be open every year since then. Yeah. So the next building, one right behind you, this one was reconstructed, along with many of the walls here throughout the 1920s and 30s. What you can see in this one today, I've got some soldiers' barracks set up downstairs. If you want to see images of the ruins and how the fort was constructed, that doorway under the stairs can show you that. And then upstairs we have artifacts on display. So if you want to check out artifacts excavated from the site here, original weaponry, custom pouches, all of those things up there. to the right there, you'll find our shoemakers, where they make all of these shoes we wear here at the fort. Top right door, we can find our tailors working away, making all the clothing and uniforms we wear. Now this building, the last one we constructed, it was that Magasin du Roi. Today it is our Mars Education Center. It's able to be reconstructed in 2008 due to a generous donation by the Mars Foundation. Folks might know from their delicious chocolates. In there today, it is a modern interior. So there is air conditioning, restrooms, drinking fountains, and elevators, kitchen to all the floors. And with it, climate controlled. A lot more delicate things on display. So exhibits on all the floors. Very downstairs is definitely the one you want to check out. That will rotate every year along through our 250th. And they're able to be, delicate things like uniforms, headgear, manuscripts, artwork on display in there. So definitely check that one out. The other things you can see today, okay, I'm almost done. Shortly after I stopped talking, at 2 o'clock, right outside the archway out on the green there, you can find our cannon demonstration. Right after that, you meet back here in the parade ground. There will be a guide to walk you through the exhibit spaces at 2:30. Of course, you're welcome to walk through the exhibits freely, but if you want a guide pointing out more context of what you're looking at, here at 2:30, they'll walk you through those spaces. Or if you're more interested in a garden tour, which is also kind of a timeline, but from the garden's perspective, down the hill, meeting at the greenhouse at 2:45, you can find that. Last tour, not on site, but did you all get a gold coin when you came in? Okay, so you can use that gold coin. You'll drive through town. There are directions in your pamphlet. We can also guide you if you need help. Directions through town to get to the base of Mount Defiance. That gold coin will open at the gate so you can drive on up there. And you can drive up anytime before 4:30, but if you're there at 4, there will be a guide waiting for you up there. There's a gazebo to the shade, and they'll give you another history from a fantastic perspective. You can really see the fort and the peninsula down here. So I think that finally wraps me up. Before I let you go, I really want to thank you all for joining me. Fort Ticonderoga is a privately owned nonprofit organization. It's folks like you coming in and joining us really allow us to continue this and really keep up our mission of fostering an active, ongoing discussion of the history and really keep it alive for generations. So I do really want to thank you all so much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
We're all here for a cannon demonstration, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. Before we get going, let's identify our safety line, which is this white line in the grass. The best view is going to be right here. So I highly recommend that you all, if you're interested, circulate in this general area. Take a seat in the grass if you want. You all have a lovely view from up there, so there's no need to get any closer. All right, so this year at Ticonderoga, we are recreating the events of 1774. In that year, this was a British fort, having been captured from the French in the conflict before, the French and Indian War. And in that year, we know that there were about 65 pieces of artillery that were at this fort. We know 35 of those guns were actually French, because they'd been captured with the fort in 1759 when the French failed to destroy a fair amount of their artillery. Now, after the French and Indian War, the British, they moved more and more cannon to this fort because they simply did not have the manpower to move lots and lots and lots of cannons out of the Champlain Valley. And so Ticonderoga becomes a depository for cannon that simply cannot be moved any further. Now, many of these guns, like our French 4-pounder here, were mounted on carriages in braziers ready for action, but a lot of these guns were not. Instead, they have been left down by the King's shipyard or down by the water. Many of the guns that had been mounted, say along the ramparts here, well, they had rotted through their carriages, had pushed their way through their rotten braziers, actually had tumbled over the cliff and were lost in the lake. Fair to say that this fort was not in any condition to withstand any kind of attack. Excuse me. Now, we know that all of these cannons, excuse me, were iron guns. The reason for this is that the French French Ministry of the Navy and the British Board of Ordnance, they relied heavily on iron guns to arm forts and ships. The reason for this is that iron is relatively cheap to work with. It's abundant in the earth, it's easy to form into cannon, but iron is a very, very brittle metal, and this means that iron cannon, they have to be cast much, much thicker than their bronze counterparts, which are lighter. So this makes the cannon quite heavy, but of course, if it's on a carriage, in an embrasure, on the walls of a fort, or on the deck of a ship, that issue of weight is negated because it's not traveling with armies. Now, the way that cannon are rated or measured in this time period is by the weight of the cannonball that is fired from it. So like I said a little while ago, this is a French 4-pounder, meaning it fires a 4-pound iron cannonball. Now, the problem at hand is that the British and the French, they don't use the same system of measurement. The British system, it starts with a 3-pounder. From there, you'd have a 6-pounder, a 9, a 12, an 18, a 24, and then a 32-pounder. The French system is a hair different, starting with a 4-pounder. Then you would have 6s, 8s, 12s, 18s, 24s, and 36-pounders. The other problem at hand is actually French pound and English pound, they're not the same weight to begin with. And so we find there's a fair amount of confusion as the bores of these guns would corrode as to what actual size, diameter, and weight of shot would actually fit on the inside. Now, it doesn't particularly matter, say, if it's a French 4 or if it's an English 6-pounder. When you look at our cannon here, they all have the same parts. So when we say cannon, we are simply referring to the iron tube that fires the ammunition. Now, this is cast solid and then is bored out to form the cavity by which the ammunition is loaded. Out in front, you have the muzzle of the gun. The muzzle is the entrance to the bore, which goes all the way to the back of the gun, called the breech, where it is cast the thickest. And there's another hole called the vent, which is drilled from the top of the breech down into the bore. And this will allow the gunners to pour a priming charge of gunpowder to ignite the main charge on the inside. Now, just behind this, you have the cascabel, that little doorknob-like looking piece, which is used to help lift the gun up off of its carriage. Just ahead of the center of gravity of the cannon, you have 2 cylinders of iron called the trunnions. And these will allow, of course, the cannon to change in elevation and for it to rest upon its carriage. Now, all of the cannon that were mounted here at Ticonderoga in 1774 were English naval carriages, identifiable by the 4 small trucks or wheels. Now, if you look closely, you'll see the 2 cheeks of our carriage, or the large pieces of hardwood which support the weight of the cannon. Now, on top of the cheeks, you have 2 latchets that go right over the top in order to keep the cannon from popping off, say, when we fired the piece. Now, these cheeks, they're connected by a transit in the front and transit bolts to keep the whole thing together. And the cheeks, cannon and all, they rest upon 2 axle trees holding the 4 trucks with the small wheels, which will allow the gun to recoil or to be moved in and out of battery. Now, if you look closely, underneath the breech of the gun, there is the stool bed. The stool bed that holds the coin, or the aiming wedge, which when you pull out will increase the elevation, you push it in, it decreases the elevation. Just like so. Now, the vast majority of the artillery that was here in 1774 were either French 4-pounders or they were English 6-pounders. The problem at hand for the garrison is it was really difficult to tell the difference between the two, because the odd system of measurements made the difference in the diameter of those 2 cannons only 1/4 of an inch. And due to the corrosion, garrison had a hard time identifying which was which. Now, the ammunition that we've passed around here is the ammunition that is intended for the gun that we're going to fire. Here's the question to make sure you all are paying attention. How much does that cannonball weigh? 4, exactly. And is it a French or an English 4?
Yes.
French.
Exactly, because there is no English 4-pounder. You're paying attention, that's great. Now, here's a slightly trickier question. At this point, the British Board of Ordnance had figured out that you need 1/3 the weight of your cannonball for a charge of gunpowder. The ammunition was carried within these paper cartridges. So if we need 1/3 the weight of 4 pounds, how much does that weigh?
Hopefully.
1/3.
1 point something, you're right, but not quite right.
0.33.
What was that? Exactly. there's one other thing, actually two other things you would need, and that is jump or wadding. Here at Ticonderoga, they employed a naval exercise which referred to jump or wadding as old hemp rope, no longer serviceable, the riggings of ships, which would be pulled apart, tied up into these little discs. And the purpose of this was to push all the powder and the shot firmly to the breech of the gun so you didn't have a misfire. Now imagine you loaded our cannon with this concoction and you fired it with the maximum range in mind. You would expect that cannonball to travel 1.7 miles. So even though it's a small gun, it's still some substantial range. But imagine the enemy is well within 1.7 miles. Let's say 0.8 range, which for a gun like this is about 400 yards. You would switch over to a different kind of ammunition. In this case, grape shot. Now for a 4-pounder, grape shot weighs
4 pounds.
how much? 4 pounds. Not a 6-pounder, it's a 4-pounder exactly. But it's a little different. This time, instead of one cannonball, it is 9 iron balls, 1.25 inches in diameter, lashed around a central post, held within a canvas bag. And as you would imagine, when the gun is fired, that shot rips through the bag and sprays out towards the enemy downrange. Now it would be the job of the Royal Artillery, men dressed as I am, to make and maintain all of this ammunition, which was kept within the southwest bastion, the new powder magazine. Regrettably, notoriously leaky, and so quite the job for the men of the Royal Artillery. The other job that you'd find them responsible for is training the drafts from the infantry how to actually operate this piece and to learn the tools associated. So if you see the man who stands to the front right of the gun, he carries the sponge rammer. Now that long haft has 2 cylinders of wood around either end, one of which has sheep's fleece tacked about it, which when plunged into a bucket of water and wrung out, gives us the means of extinguishing any embers which might linger in the breech of the gun. The other cylinder, our rammer, pushes home our powder, our wad, our shot, and our other wad firmly up against the breech of the gun. Standing across from him is the man who carries the wad hook. Another haft, this time without the sheep's fleece, you've got that pointed piece of iron that is inserted into the gun immediately after it's fired, turned about a few times, ideally catching the remains of any paper cartridge which might be smoldering on the inside. And for redundancy's sake, a rammer at the other end. Now, to actually prime the piece, there are 2 tools. One of which is the priming iron. The other is the priming horn. The priming iron is used to push into the vent of the gun to prick open the paper cartridge on the inside. The priming horn is filled ideally with about 2 pounds of fine gunpowder, which you then dispense into the vent via the brass sprout to actually prime the piece. To fire the gun, we have the Lin stick, which holds slow match. Slow match is nothing more than a hemp rope that's been soaked in baths of wine spirits, sulfur, charcoal, just a little bit of gunpowder for touch. And this creates a match that will burn very slowly, but when blown on, glows red hot once again. It is more than enough to touch off our charge of powder. All of the matrosses or gunners, they carry the crow or handspike, that simple machine or lever which amplifies the strength of the man, moving the gun in or out of battery, changing our elevation, and of course moving it from left to right. Now to put all this together, the Royal Artillery would train the drafts with His Britannic Majesty's exercise of the great guns and small arms. This exercise was last updated in 1765 and is actually a naval exercise. Now, why was the Army using a naval exercise? Well, if you look at our gun platform, our 4-pounder on a garrison carriage and its embrasure, it's a lot like a ship. Consequently, it was deemed to be the better exercise than the other ones. To begin this exercise, the first command is to take heed. Silence. Lay off the apron. Stop the touch hole. Handle sponge staff. So I place my thumb over the vent of the gun. This will help create a vacuum. Sponge staff is then inserted into the gun and then pulled out. And that sound you'll hear is the breaking of the vacuum. Handle cartridge. Now the ammunition is brought forward to the mouth of the gun. And that man waits for the next order to put it in the gun. Wad to your cartridge. Handle rammer. Ram home, cartridge and wad. Unstop the touch hole. Handle the priming iron. Try if the cartridge be hove. Now this is a safety measure to make sure the paper cartridge is in fact seated underneath the vent. If it's not, we'll have a misfire. I should be able to feel that cartridge with the vent. If it is there, I'll give the man up front the command to withdraw rammer. Shot the gun. The rest of the ammunition, in this case the 4-pounder shot, is inserted into the muzzle. Wad. And the wad pushed on top. Ram home, shot and wad. Lay on the apron. Run out the gun. Heave. 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 Handle priming horn. Prime. Now to prime the piece, that priming iron is pulled out once again, this time pushed into the cartridge, and then the priming horn pours that fine gunpowder into the vent. Bruise the priming, and the gunpowder is crushed slightly to make it more flammable. Secure the powder horn, lay on the apron, take up your crows and hand spikes. Point the gun to the object. Now that means aim. To aim, there are 2 different commands, one of which is a verbal command, either up or down to change the elevation. And then for confusion's sake, it is a simple hand gesture left or right. That way, in the heat of battle, there is no confusion. Up, down. Lay down your crows and hand spikes. Take up your match and blow it. And if you have sensitive hearing, this is the loud part. Fire!
Didn't fall in the water.
Who wants to see it again? I see a couple hands. All right. Now, by doing this, of course, again and again and again, a gun crew can become proficient to do this in the heat of battle at a much, much faster rate.
There's a lot of shit left in that muzzle. See it?
Handle slug step. Punch the gun. Handle cartridge. Put it in the gun. Wad. Handle rammer. Ram home, shot and wad. Wad and cartridge, pardon me. Unstop the touch hole, handle priming iron. Try if the cartridge be home. Withdraw rammer. Shot the gun. Wad. Ram home, shot and wad. Lay on the apron, run out the gun. Handle priming horn. Prime. Bruise the priming. Secure the powder horn. Take up your crows and hand spikes. Point the gun to the object. Lay down your crows and hand spikes. Take up your match and blow it. Now, it was in 1774 that Ticonderoga was once again becoming important to the British Army in North America. And this was due to the growing unrest in the colony of Massachusetts and just across the lake in the Hampshire Grants. You would find that the British were once again waking up to Ticonderoga's importance. Consequently, they ordered an additional 200 men to bolster this garrison. However, these plans never came to light. The reason being was that Ticonderoga was in such deplorable shape that the garrison simply could not be enlarged. And engineer who came to survey the works noted that the walls were leaning towards the horizon and that there were many capital breaches. It is ironic that despite all the artillery that was present here, it did not make Ticonderoga more defensible, but instead made it the tempting target that it was even before the American Revolution. Of course, with these guns mounted, they could have been called into action with a simple command to fire! But of course would give America its first victory in the American Revolution. Now, with all that said, as soon as we're sure that our gun is safe, you guys are welcome to cross that safety line. Ask us any questions you may have. If you're curious about more artillery, I highly suggest you all take the exhibition tour, which will begin shortly within the parade ground. Last but not least, I want to say thank you very, very much for being here. You all make this private non-for-profit work, and consequently, we'd like to say thank you very, very much for coming, but also thank you very much for listening. The gun looks safe enough to me. If you guys want to check out the gun, the ammunition, please feel free to cross that safety line. You all have a lovely day.
Yes, it was.
Y'all did a bang-up job.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate that.
Sorry, 125 for the belt.
How come you call it the ram? It's not the ramrod.
No, well, that would be in a musket. This is
Oh.
the sponge ram, and for a cannon,
Okay.
it's called rammer. Now,
Rammer,
these implements
yeah.
can be separate. However, for the purpose of land drills, they are included on the same shaft. So you have the sponge staff head and the rammer head all in one place.
Yep.
The rammer.
Yep.
And you just put it in the bucket.
Yep, you put it in the bucket that douses that sheep's fleece, and that is used to extinguish any of the embers remaining inside.
You gotta be careful not to kick it.
Yes, well, that's
Don't
the
kick
goal.
the bucket, yeah.
Yeah, but even if I kick the bucket, the man opposite to
Yeah.
me with the wad hook and the rammer on the other end.
Oh,
can
yeah,
still
that
do
one's
the
got the
job.
hook.
Have to switch hands because
I'm also getting a little
I carry the box.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh,
Most of those guys.
thank you.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to him. You're very welcome, sir.
No, well, I'm saying thank you.
Of course.
Thank y'alls.
They're all middle-aged guys.
Yeah.
And they should be teenagers.
Yep.
So,
That's why all the uniforms you see in the museum are very small.
And it's more to do with access to nutrition. People
They're
in the
all
18th century
shorter.
are
well,
a
thank you
variety.
very much.
Yeah, it's nice talking with you. There are a variety of sizes. They're tall people too. But in general, if you look at where people are from and the nutrition available to
Yeah.
them, that often dictates their size.
The
So
beds seem to
in
be short.
France at this point, there's not great access to nutrition. A satirical print that an Englishman would remember of a Frenchman is that they're raised eating garlic and onions.
And frogs.
Yeah, hypothetically. And if you look at that French coat, it's no surprise that it's got a very, very small stature.
Yeah. And the beds seem very short too.
It's sort of an optical illusion. They're about as long as my bed, maybe
Yeah, oh, they are?
maybe about 4 inches shorter, but they're wider, accommodating 2 people.
Okay. So these were kind of a field expedient with the wicker, with the earthworks. It was quick and they could put it up
Exactly,
quick.
and it's very replaceable.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of Ticonderoga in 1774 probably looked like that.
One of them gets hit, you just roll another one over
Yep,
and
exactly.
set it up.
Yep.
Well, that was awesome. That was what, about a quarter of the powder that you would normally use?
Yes. About a 6-ounce charge generally is what we use. So yeah, about a quarter. It's a pound and a third.